Today I will be discussing on the topic data, which is part of biostatistics. Data are a set of values recorded on one or more observational units. Data are raw materials of statistics. It is the collection of facts or information from which conclusions can be drawn. There are different types of data. Mainly there are quantitative and qualitative data. Quantitative data can be further divided into continuous data and discrete data. Discrete data can take only whole numbers and continuous data will take fractional numbers also. Coming to collection of data, data can be mainly collected through two sources. Either it can be primary source or it can be secondary source. In primary source, this is the first hand information. That is, the data is obtained by the investigator himself. But in secondary source, the data which is already recorded is utilized to serve the purpose of the objective of the study. For example, the records of the OPD of dental clinics. Primary data can be obtained by the following methods, either by direct personal interview or through oral health examination or by a questionnaire method. Coming to the important part, that is the presentation of data. On completion of data collection, the data has to be presented before it is analyzed and interpreted. Data collected and compiled from experimental work, surveys, registers or records are raw data. We will not understand much from seeing the raw data. So these are unsorted and not very helpful in understanding the underlying trends or its meanings. So the next step is to sort and classify the data into characteristic groups or classes according to age, sex, social class, DMFT score, etc. The objective of classification of data is to make the data simple, concise, meaningful, interesting, and helpful in further analysis. So there are two main methods of presenting data. Either it can be tables or it can be charts and diagrams. So when you come to tables, there are different types of tables, mainly three types. First one is a master table, second is a simple table, and third is a frequency distribution table. In a master table, it contains all the data which has been obtained from the survey. And a simple table, they are one-way tables which supply answers to questions about one characteristic of the data only. It will not have too many columns. And the third type is the frequency distribution table. The simplest table is a two-column frequency table. The first column lists the classes into which the data are grouped and the second column lists the frequencies for each classification. So these are different types of tables. This is a frequency distribution table. The general principles that are accepted for table construction are, first is, tables should be as simple as possible. 2 or 3 small tables are preferred than a single large table containing many details or variables. Second, the data must be presented according to the size or importance chronologically or alphabetically. Third, tables should be self-explanatory. Codes, abbreviations or symbols should be explained in detail in a footnote. Fourth, each row and each column should be labeled concisely and clearly. Fifth, the specific units of measure for the data should be given. 6. The title should be clear, concise and to the point. 7th, total should be shown. 8th, every table should contain a title as to what it is depicted in the table. The title is commonly separated from the body of the table by lines or spaces. In small tables, vertical lines separating the columns may not be necessary, and if the data are not original, their source should be given in a footnote. So these are the criteria to be followed when making a table. So this is an example for a table. Coming to charts and diagrams. Charts and diagrams are one of the most convincing and appealing ways of depicting statistical results. Diagrams and graphs are extremely useful because they are attractive to the eyes, they give a bird's eye view of the entire data, they have a lasting impression on the mind of the layman, and they facilitate comparison of data relating to different time periods and regions. So first coming to the bar chart. It is a way of presenting a set of numbers by the length of a bar. The width of the bar remains the same and only the length varies according to the frequency in each category. The bars can be either vertical or horizontal. The bars are separated by spaces. The bar chart can be further divided into simple bar chart, multiple bar chart and proportional bar chart. So in a simple bar chart, it represents only one variable. For example, the age-wise prevalence of dental caries in percentage. So this is an example of a simple bar chart. The second one is a multiple bar chart. This diagram is similar to the simple bar diagram except that for each category of the variable, there are a set of bars of the same width corresponding to different sections without any gap in between. So for example, prevalence of dental caries based on age and gender. So this is an example of a multiple bar chart. Here for each category, there are two bars showing males and females. And the third is a proportional or a component bar chart. The individual bars are divided into two or more parts. This diagram is used to compare the subgroups between different major groups of observation. For example, the prevalence of dental caries based on age and gender. So this is an example for a proportional or a component bar chart. The second type of diagram is the pie diagram or a pie chart. These are so called because the entire graph looks like a pie and its components represents slices cut from a pie. The total angle at the center of the circle is equal to 360 degree and it represents the total frequency. It is divided into different sectors corresponding to the frequencies of the variables in the distribution. For example, distribution of dental caries in 30 to 40-year-olds. The segments are then shaded with different shades or colors and an index is provided for these shade colors. However, this diagram cannot be used to represent two or more data sets. So this is an example of a pie diagram. Here we can divide the total 360 degree into different sectors. For example, here in the diagram we have shown caries 30%, gingivitis 35% and periodontitis 45%. The third diagram is the line diagram. This diagram is useful to study changes of values in the variable over time and it is the simplest type of diagram. On the x-axis, the time such as hours, days, weeks, months or years are represented and the value of any quantity pertaining to this is represented along the y-axis. Example is the age-wise prevalence of dental disease. So this figure shows a line diagram. Next is a histogram. It is a pictorial diagram of frequency distribution. There is no space between the cells on a histogram. The histogram and bar diagram look similar, but the difference is that the histogram does not have gaps in between the bars. This graph is not to be confused with the bar chart which has space between the cells. The class intervals are given on the x-axis and the frequencies along the y-axis. So this is an example of a histogram. Coming to frequency polygon. It is also a pictorial diagram of frequency distribution. To draw a frequency polygon, a point is marked over the midpoint of the histogram blocks. Then these points are connected by a straight line. So example for frequency polygon is age-wise prevalence of dental caries. So here we have marked the center points of the histogram and then they are connected. So this is known as a frequency polygon. Next is a cartogram or a spot map or a shaded map. These maps are used to show geographical distribution of frequencies of a characteristic. The coverage of cases of oral cancer by geographic area may be depicted through this diagram and a dot or a point may be used to indicate one such case. If shades are used, it is called shaded map. So this is a spot map. We have just spotted out the points. And this is a shaded map. The areas are shaded with different colors. Next one is a pictogram. Small pictures or symbols are used for presenting data. They are especially used for the common man. For example, population per physician. See, this shows the pictogram. Here, one child's head represents 10 students. So in class 1, they have shown 7 heads. That means there are 70 students in class 1. This is also a type of a pictogram. Here the black colors represented by graduates, the white represented by the primary education, and the transparents are represented as illiterates. Next is a scatter diagram. It is a diagram which shows the relationship between two variables. If the dots clusters around a straight line, it shows a linear relationship. Example, relationship between sugar intake and dental caries prevalence, showing a positive relationship. So this is a scatter diagram which shows a positive relationship. Thank you.